Okay, today we're going on an incredible journey, and it's one that happens inside every single one of us, every single day. We're going to follow a simple bite of food and see how it becomes the fuel that powers our entire lives.
Have you ever really stopped to think about it? How does a sandwich, or whatever you had for lunch, actually give you the energy to work, to play, to even think? It seems like magic, but today we're going to peek behind the curtain.
And here it is, our roadmap for this whole adventure, the alimentary canal. You can just think of it as your body's personal power plant. It's basically one long, twisting tube, and we're going to follow our food's path from start to finish.
So, our first stop, as you'd probably guess, is the mouth. This is ground zero. The entire process kicks off the instant you take that very first bite.
What's so cool is that right away, two types of digestion are happening at the exact same time. First, you've got the mechanical part, your teeth doing their job, crushing and grinding. But at the same time, your saliva is kicking off the chemical digestion, softening everything up and starting to break it down on a molecular level.
And the star player in your saliva is this enzyme called salivary amylase. Its whole job is to find complex carbs, like the starch in bread or pasta, and immediately start chopping them up into simpler sugars. The chemical adventure has officially begun.
But hang on, there's a quick but really important heads up we need to talk about right here at stop one. Those simple sugars we just made, well, when they mix with the bacteria that are naturally in your mouth, they can form plaque. And that plaque creates acid, which is what leads to tooth decay. It's the whole reason your dentist tells you to brush after you eat.
All right, our bite of food has been chewed up and is on the move. Once you swallow, it doesn't just, drop into your stomach. It gets an active push down into the next major processing hub.
And this is how it gets there. The muscles in your esophagus squeeze in this incredible wave-like motion, pushing the food along. It's called peristalsis, and it's so effective it means you can even eat upside down, though I probably wouldn't recommend trying it.
Now, once that food hits the stomach, bam, it's met with this intense chemical cocktail. We've got hydrochloric acid making things super acidic. We've got an enzyme called pepsin that jumps right on digesting proteins. And maybe most importantly, we have a thick layer of mucus that protects the stomach from being digested by its own powerful acid.
And if you really want to understand how powerful that acid is, think about heartburn. That burning feeling of acidity is literally what happens when a little bit of that stomach acid gets where it's not supposed to be. It's a pretty intense reminder of the chemistry happening inside you. Okay, leaving the stomach's acid bath, our food, which is now more like a thick paste, enters what I like to call the absorption superhighway. This is the small intestine, and honestly, this is where the main event really happens.
And when I say it's a superhighway, I mean it's a long one. This is by far the longest part of the entire digestive tract. It's just coiled up really, really tightly to fit inside our bodies. And that length is absolutely essential for its job. So why does the length matter so much? Well, check this out. An animal, like a cow, which eats tough grass full of cellulose, needs a really long small intestine to break it all down. But a carnivore, like a tiger, eats meat, which is way easier to digest, so theirs is much shorter. It's a perfect case of the equipment matching the diet.
But here's the thing. The small intestine is not a solo act. It gets some serious backup from its neighbors. The liver chips in with bile, and the pancreas sends over a whole cocktail of powerful digestive enzymes. It's a total team effort.
So here's how the team pulls it off. First, bile from the liver acts like a detergent, breaking up big blobs of fat into tiny little droplets. Then, the enzymes from the pancreas can get to work, breaking down proteins and those little fat droplets. Finally, the intestine itself releases juices that finish the job, breaking everything down to its most basic, usable form.
And this right here is the goal of that whole process. This is the big conversion. All those complex foods we ate are now simple, tiny molecules. Proteins are now amino acids. Carbs are now glucose. And fats are now fatty acids and glycerol. They're finally ready for pickup.
Okay, so the food is broken down into these perfect, tiny building blocks. Now what? How do they get out of the intestine and into the bloodstream so the rest of our body can actually use them?
Well, the secret weapon here is something called villi. The inside of your small intestine isn't smooth at all. It's covered with millions of these tiny finger-like things. The shaggy carpet analogy is perfect. All those fibers create a massive surface area, which is perfect for absorbing all those nutrients directly into your blood.
And that brings us to the final leg of our tour. Whatever couldn't be absorbed in the small intestine moves on to our last stop, the large intestine, for final processing.
So, what's the main job here? Well, it's pretty simple but super important. Water reclamation. The large intestine basically sucks up most of the remaining water from the waste material and sends it back into the body to be recycled.
And whatever is left over after that, well, that's the end of the line. That material is removed from the body, and with that, the incredible journey of that bite of food comes to an end.
So let's just zoom out for a second. The whole point of this entire unbelievably complex system is to do these 4 things: break down our food, absorb the nutrients, deliver them to every single cell, and then use them for everything: energy, growth, and repair. That's it. That's the mission.
And your body does this all day, every day, without you ever having to think about it. It's an amazing, perfectly coordinated system. Which kind of leaves us with one last big question. Knowing how incredible this journey is, what are you choosing to fuel it with?